When the human collapsed in the dust of that shattered moon, the predator cubs didn't just cry, they howled. Their tiny voices shook the air like wounded thunder. And in a galaxy that usually ignores small tragedies, something answered, because sometimes the universe hears the grief of the innocent, and sometimes it responds with fire, memory, and the kind of vengeance only stars can deliver. But why would the cosmos rise for one fragile human and a handful of orphaned cubs? If stories like this hit you right in the chest, go ahead and tap like. It helps more people discover these wild HFY tales. And if you want more cosmic surprises and human legends every week, feel free to subscribe. Oh, and share this one with a friend who loves emotional sci-fi. They'll thank you later. The dust on Uranine always floated a little too slowly, like it wasn't sure if it wanted to fall. When the human Mira Han hit the ground, the dust hesitated again, swirling around her as if refusing to settle on someone who had saved this moon more times than its people could count. The predator cubs froze. 6 small bodies, all claws and trembling fur, stared at the human who had fed them, sheltered them, and warned them not to follow her into danger. But of course they did. They always did. And now she wasn't moving. One cub nudged her glove. Another pressed its forehead to her chest. No rise, no breath. A strange silence crawled across the battlefield. The attackers were gone, scattered by Mira's last desperate stand, but their shadows still felt close, like claws waiting just outside the light. The cubs huddled tighter around her, their small forms shaking in the fading heat of the battlefield. They didn't understand death, not fully, but they understood gone. And Mira Han was gone in the same terrible, quiet way their parents had vanished. The smallest cub let out a thin, broken sound. Another followed, then another. Instinct pulled them into a circle around her body-tiny guardians, refusing to leave the one creature who had never feared them. The wind stilled, as if listening. The first howl cracked the air like a spark on dry leaves, small, trembling, and unbearably raw. The cubs had never howled before. Their species only used that call when something ancient inside them woke, something older than clans or war. One voice rose, then another. Then all 6 lifted their heads toward the fractured sky and screamed grief into the heavens. The sound didn't travel like normal noise. It carried weight memory, something woven with Mira's scent, her touch, the warmth she had given them. It pulsed across the battlefield, bounced off shattered rock, and climbed upward into the thinning atmosphere. By the time the echo reached orbit, it was no longer just a cry. It was a signal. High above Uranine, a dormant array of crystalline satellites flickered awake machines, so old the locals believed they were debris, relics from a forgotten war. But they weren't debris. They were listeners. Guardians built to respond only to one thing, the distress signature of a fallen protector. Mira Han had been the last human to earn that title. The cub's howl, soaked in her biological trace and emotional imprint, hit the array like a key, turning in a locked door. One satellite lit, then another. Then a chain reaction snapped through the dark like stars being born in reverse. The system recognized the signal, and it answered. Deep in the cold stretch between systems, something stirred. A fleet that hadn't moved in centuries sleek. Obsidian ships shaped like folded wings reawakened as the ancient satellites relayed the signal across the void. The vessels weren't crewed. They were bound, linked to the protectors who once roamed the galaxy. Mira Han had been registered as their last surviving human ally. Inside the command cores, dormant code flickered to life. Weapons warmed with a low metallic hum, like the fleet itself was taking a deep breath after a very long sleep. Navigation systems oriented toward Uranine. For the first time in generations, the dark fleet began to move. The fleet accelerated, cutting through silent space with the precision of a hunting pack. Old algorithms assessed the signal's tone, grief, fear, biological resonance from non-human juveniles, and matched it with Mira Han's profile. The conclusion formed instantly. A protector is down. Dependent young are in danger. Immediate intervention required. Across the flagship's interior, silver glyphs pulsed to life, recounting Mira's deeds, frontier rescues, peace negotiations, battles survived against impossible odds. She had never asked for recognition, but the system remembered. And now, her memory was a spark, forcing an entire fleet into motion. Nothing in the sector would reach Uranine faster. The dark fleet tore into Uranine's orbit like a storm of silent thunder, each ship unfolding its wings of black alloy as if shaking off centuries of dust. From the ground, the cubs felt the vibration first, a deep, rolling tremor that made their ears twitch and their fur bristle. They tightened their circle around Mira's body, not knowing whether the sky was bringing salvation or another threat. Then the first beam fell. It wasn't a weapon, not yet. It was a scanning lance, thin as a thread of light, sweeping over the battlefield and locking onto Mira Han's form with heartbreaking precision. A soft chime echoed across the valley as the system confirmed her identity. The air seemed to inhale. And then the stars opened fire. Dark fleet cannons unleashed a coordinated barrage, so exact it looked choreographed, every strike vaporizing enemy remnants, fortifying the ridges, sealing off every approach. The assault wasn't random destruction. It was protection. It was grief translated into firepower. The cubs watched, wide-eyed, as the sky defended the body they guarded. They didn't understand why the universe cared about one human, but the ships did. Mira had saved worlds. Now the stars were returning the favor. When the battlefield finally fell silent, the dark fleet descended in a slow ceremonial drift. One ship, sleek, silver-veined, marked with the emblem of the old protectors, landed near the cubs. Its hull folded open like a metallic flower, revealing a single hovering drone shaped like a lantern. It approached Mira's body with a gentleness impossible for a machine that had once burned pirate armadas out of existence. The cubs snarled softly, uncertain, but the drone paused, emitted a soft harmonic tone Mira used to calm them, and waited. That was enough. They stepped back. The drone lifted Mira from the dust, wrapping her in a cocoon of shimmering light. Memory's visual logs of her missions projected around her like drifting constellations. Faces she had saved, settlements she had rebuilt, treaties she had forged with species who once feared humans. And hovering behind her, the 6 cubs watched their protector rise again, carried by the very system she once served. Word spread faster than any starship. The last human protector had fallen, and the universe rose in her name. Years later, statues of Mira Han would stand across colonies, always with 6 young predators curled at her feet. Because legends don't die. They become the stories the stars remember.